So let's jump into
Absolutely.
it. So each week, Sonia and I go live to talk about the effects of the coronavirus on Canadian immigration. We are back again. It is April 3rd, 2020. Really quick, I'll go through the agenda. So, we're going to very briefly introduce ourselves. I'm going to quickly give some updates regarding individuals, applications, and travel. Sonia's going to do a quick update on any new considerations or information that companies should be considering. And then, of course, we will stick around for a Q&A. If anybody is live and you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I will be keeping an eye. We probably won't interrupt the presentation, but we will go back and make sure to answer all of them. If you're not tuning in live, you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook after the fact, I highly recommend following Visto on Facebook so you can tune in as we continue to go live every week. So really quickly, who we are. My name is Josh Schachnow. I'm a Canadian immigration lawyer and CEO of Visto. It's a free platform helping international students that are in Canada, as well as skilled workers from all over the world navigate express entry. Sonia, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, for those of you who have been following us, you already know who I am. For those of you who are tuning in for the first time, my name is Sonia and I'm a principal partner at SMB Business Immigration. As the name says, we're dealing majority of the times with corporations that are sponsoring foreign nationals into Canada onto different projects, but we also deal with study permits, different kind of temporary residency programs, as well as startup visas. You're more than welcome to check our website at smblaw.ca, or if there are any questions after this live event or at any point in time, you can send us an email. Send me an email, in fact, to Sonia at smblaw.ca.
Yep, and we will have those emails on the last slide of the deck when we get there. But smblaw.ca to check out Sonia, visto.ai to check me out. A quick disclaimer, as we always have. This is for informational purposes only, so it does not, create that lawyer-client privilege, and we do hope that the information we do provide is extremely helpful. So, a quick note for previous updates, because there are changes happening every week, we have a few things we can recommend before we jump into this week's updates. Number one is our special measures Google Doc. So what we do is each week, as we get these new updates, we also update them into a live Google document. I will throw a link in the description of either this chat if you're watching live on Facebook right now, or if you're watching a video after the fact, you'll find a link in the description. If you don't feel like watching videos every week, instead you can just check our Google Doc. We update it, and every week you'll see at the top the last date it was updated, as well as links to the Facebook page if you want to join in on the Facebook Lives too. Also, we post all these videos on YouTube after the fact. So make sure to check out the YouTube channel, Visto AI's YouTube channel, and you can see all the previous recordings. But keep in mind, some of them do become outdated as new changes come about. So let's get into the fun stuff. Updates for individuals. There's actually not too many this week. The most important are the new travel exemptions. They were mentioned last week and formally in place this week. So this relates to study permit holders, work permit holders, and those approved for PR. And all of this information, again, is summarized more specifically in our Google Doc. But the government had mentioned and now formally has put in place the travel exemptions. If you are a study permit holder, a work permit holder, or you've been approved for PR, I believe it's before the date of March 18th, then you are exempt from the travel ban and you are allowed to travel to Canada. So that's really important information for those permit holders. What you're still going to want to keep in mind, though, is that no matter who you are, whether you're following under that exemption or you're a Canadian citizen, PR, anything, if you travel to Canada, you must isolate for 14 days upon arrival. The other thing that you should definitely keep in mind if you're a study work permit holder or a PR holder is that, and this is listed on the CIC website, they are expecting you to have a plan in place for your isolation. So, for example, where do you plan on living? How do you plan on getting your groceries, your food, everything to look after yourself for 14 days if you're not allowed out of the house? So, while the exemptions are in place, before you actually decide to travel, make sure you have a plan in place, because if you don't, you might get questioned very intensely at customs. or worst case, they could turn you away at customs. So make sure you have a plan in place. Review the specifics that have been rehashed in the Google document, and make sure you do all that stuff before deciding to travel. Lastly, what I'll note too is that flag polling is not considered essential travel. So in order to go to the border or cross the border, which a lot of people do for the purposes of flag polling, it has to be considered essential travel. CBSA is not considering flag polling essential travel, so they are turning away people who are going to the border specifically to flag poll. So if that is your intention, save yourself the time and the stress and don't. Instead, apply for whether it's an extension or a different type of visa online as you normally would, and do not flag poll. So that's it. The rest of the updates that are already in place, again, you can find in the Google Doc or in our previous videos. I'm now going to pass it over to Sonia to talk about the newest considerations for companies.
Thank you, Josh. So, like Josh mentioned, I'm not going to be reiterating whatever that's happened before because, we've got it on the live Google Doc and you might already know about it. The new guidelines, the new updates are the guidelines that just came out a few days ago on LMIA applications, on the employers that are dealing with LMIAs. Service Canada has asking employers to follow the guidelines. The number one and the most important one is that the worker's period of employment is intended to begin upon their arrival to Canada, and that includes the self-isolation period. As majority of you might know by now, the Quarantine Act came into effect in Canada a few weeks ago. In fact, I think it was more than a week ago, 2 weeks ago, which means that whoever that travels to Canada, to Josh's point, regardless of being a PR citizen, work permit holder or study permit holder, they have to do self-isolation for 14 days, and that's mandatory. So the employers are asked to respect that, and same as the workers. And the employers are also required to consider this 14 days period, a self-isolation period, as part of the employment, which means that they have to continue paying the regular pay to the employers and the benefits during the self-isolation period. That specifically comes into play a bit more highlighted for workers in seasonal agriculture worker program, but that also applies to all sorts of workers in different industries. So the employers, besides giving the employers this guideline that they need to pay for the whole amount that they're supposed to pay as indicated on their contract, if they choose not to, they would have to pay at least minimum of 30 hours per week to the employee, at the rate of pay specified on the LMIA. The employers are specifically asked not to, and I repeat myself, not to withhold any benefits or to deduct any additional amounts due to the self-isolation period. And they're asked to keep the proof of wages for the 12-month reviews on the Global Talent Stream applications, or in general for any further reviews that Service Canada does randomly on employers. The employer cannot authorize the workers to work within that self-isolation period, even if the worker asks for that. The exemption is only for the businesses that are considered under the essential service by Chief Public Health Officer. And employers are not allowed to ask for any sort of duties to be performed during this period, such as any repairs or admin tasks or anything from the workers. One big thing that is Service Canada is emphasizing a lot and is asking employers to follow is to make sure that they're regularly monitoring the health of workers, the ones that are currently working or the ones that are self-isolating. For the workers that are coming to Canada and are under the self-isolation period, employers are asked to constantly and regularly check on the employees. What I mean by regular is communication on a daily basis. That could be in the form of call, text, email, or if in-person meeting is necessary, making sure that the measures, the 2-meter distance is considered, and making sure that the employee is safe and is healthy during this period. For the employees that are working currently, making sure that all the necessary instructions on how to keep the good hygiene is properly communicated with the employees. And if there is anybody who's symptomatic or who shows any sort of symptoms, the employer must immediately arrange for fully self-isolated employee or contact the appropriate consulate or health officials. So essentially, I think these are the main points. And I mentioned the Quarantine Act as well. That's also very important. And like I said, it applies to everybody, not only the foreign workers. And with that, I think I pretty much covered all the recent updates from Service Canada. And there's not much really going on right now in terms of updates. All the previous information that came out is already on our live document. This will get reflected as well, or has it been reflected? I'm not sure. Josh is dealing with that. So, okay, perfect. And we regularly, we're going to update that document. So if you stay on top of it, you'll know exactly what's going on these days.
Yep, no, the document has been updated as of yesterday. And so the first few weeks was definitely a flurry of news and updates and stuff like that, which is why our first few videos were a little bit longer. We seem to be kind of settling into the groove now, and so the updates will be a little bit shorter. But like Sonia said, they're all in the doc. The doc will be listed in the description. It's also posted in the Facebook chat now. If anybody does have any questions, now is definitely the time to post them in the Facebook chat. Feel free to go ahead. Sonia and I will stick around to answer them. You can see on screen right now if you want to reach out to us individually. I'm at josh@visto.ai. Sonia's at sonia@smblaw.ca. Feel free to shoot us an email with any questions or comments or feedback. We're always happy to hear it. We will stick around for a few more minutes. I'll see if any questions pop up.